Liberté done in with queens again. Greg Merson knocked out of this one-drop tournament by Rick Solomon. Welcome back to Las Vegas for our coverage of the big one-for-one drop. 42 players found an extra $1 million lying around and bought into the richest tournament in the world. Hi, everyone. Lon McCarron with Norman Chad and Kara Scott. A staggering $15 million goes to the one-drop champion. Kid Poker Daniel Negreanu is signing autographs.
I used to do that, but once I signed a prenup without knowing it.
Bill Ivey doing what he always does, raking in pots.
But would it kill him to win a no-limit hold'em bracelet? My man never has.
But Eric E-Dog Lindgren's one drop is over. He won his way in via satellite, but came up short of the money. 23-year-old Daniel Coleman looks serious, but has serious chips, too.
Smile, kid. Smile. Life is good. Trust me.
So Coleman sits atop the leaderboard. He's got two Brits right behind him, and Tom Hall and Sam Trickett. Connor Drynan is in eighth.
Trickett and Antonio Esfandiari went heads up for this title 2 years ago. Could it happen again?
Trickett, if you can win the first orbit, you get $500 from me.
500. You
Just a nice little free roll. Just a free roll. It's a free roll.
$500.
You've already won the first. You've already won the first two. I do that all the time.
Who bets $500 these days? It's at least a dime, right?
Fine. Fine. You can. It's not a bet. It's just a free roll. It's fine. You get a dime.
You know it's a poker player when he turns down a chance to win 500 with no risk. High-stakes poker pro Scott Siever has the second shortest stack at the table, but is still in good shape overall.
He's had great high roller results over the years, Lon.
Sam Trickett has over 100 big blinds.
He's got position on Antonio, plus he doesn't care about $500. He's poised for a deep run and for $15 million.
I told him.
What happened?
I just cut my foot open and they requested for me to have it clean, but it's just a little bit of blood leaking, right?
You're just bleeding everywhere?
Not even. Like a little bit dribbled out of the cut.
All over the pitch?
Sam dropped a jar of ranch dressing on his foot and cut it. Ouch, he needs some official TLC. 4 chips in play, 5K, up to the $250,000 size purple chip. Action on Kerry Katz, local businessman. Ace-9, into the muck. And there's our defending champion, Antonio Esfandiari. He won't play 7 deuce off. And our chip leader.
I believe Trickett was reaching for his wallet to tip the EMT.
Okay, I will.
Only in Vegas.
I'm gonna show him what I'm folding.
Yeah, show him that you're folding that.
Wow.
He does fold on the button. Rick Solomon, 6'5" of spades.
Solomon's an only in LA guy. What a life.
Part-time Hollywood guy, part-time poker player. Rick Solomon has over $7.6 million. He raises to $175,000, folded to Connor Drynan, who also got into this event on a satellite, along with Eric Lindgren.
And he won a satellite into last year's $111,000 one-drop high roller. Finished 11th for $300 grand.
My last table here was much more talkative, Antonio. I thought you'd be...
No, I'm getting warmed up.
Okay, good.
I'm coming, don't worry.
There was...
Don't worry,
No, you should know
chat.
better, Scott. You should know better. He saves all his best lines when the big pot's happening. Then he knows it's going to make
Because he knows they're going to make
Come on,
it.
man. Do you not know that?
He creates his own TV moments, I thought.
When it's just a single raise play, he's not going to say a word.
Yeah.
2 healthy chip stacks to the flop. 7, 9, 10. A pair of 10s for Drynan, but a straight flush draw for Solomon. They both check it. Turn card is a king. King's up now for Drynan.
I would bet top 2 here, but then again, that's just me.
Drynan, pondering your advice and considering its source.
He made a joke?
Connor is reaching for chips. Born in Chicago, now lives in Vancouver. Bets $215,000, and Solomon comes along.
I probably would have bet my straight flush draw on the flop, but that's just me.
River card now. Jack of diamonds. That's third diamond on board.
You would have to pay me a lot to go to a stand-up comedy show of Noah Schwartz, Phil Galfond, and Isaac Axton.
Yeah, it would not be funny.
That would be a tough
There's
comedy
nothing funny
show.
about that.
I would still prefer to listen to
Drynan
Noah
checked
over
it.
those two.
It's amazing how they can still keep their mind on the game with this cacophony that happens so often around a poker player.
I think it's...
And that is about a 425. Solomon bluffing at it.
You know, the conversation is good, but this bluff is even better. Solomon's playing the board, Lon. The board is just king high.
In my opinion.
Drynan is kings up.
4 cards straight out there. Backdoor flush came in.
Suddenly things get serious at this featured table. Drynan and Solomon have taken center stage. Connor folds the best hand. And Solomon shows it.
What do you show? 5-6?
Wow. Face.
Did you see that?
Scum does not lose 2 pots.
I love the bluff. I don't love showing it.
It was like 10, Jack, 9. Queen.
That's a rule of Scum you should have known, actually. The man does not lose 2 pots in a row.
Scum-malicious. You touch these boys. They don't know. They don't know about the scum.
They don't know.
They don't know.
I mean, I do know already. I've been here 5 minutes. I feel like I know.
You've learned?
I've learned.
You've learned.
This guy lives the high life, and he wins with 6 high.
Yeah, Rick is a bit of a mystery man. He does play in the high-stakes games in LA and Vegas, as you mentioned, but he's most known for his relationships with Paris Hilton, Pamela Anderson, Shannon Doherty, and others.
Of course he played himself on Entourage. Who else was going to play him? Tony Danza? This guy's a one-man industry, and I don't even know what the industry is.
Oh, pretty audacious payouts here at the one drop to the top 3. $15 million up top. Only 8 players will cash. Our defending champ, Antonio, with ace-4 offsuit. Under the gun, he'll fold. Sam Trickett, the big stack at this table with over $11 million. Ace-5, worthy of a raise to 160.
You can feel the heat from here.
Rick Solomon, 9-8 of clubs.
You know, I see that hat and that beard, and I'm thinking Serpico.
He makes the call. Seaver folds to Drinan on the button. Connor looks down at 10-8 of hearts.
Drinan, like Phil Galfond and Doug Polk, lives in Vancouver playing online. And at the moment, he's doing his best David Doc Sands impersonation.
Man, it's hot up here.
That's the pressure.
Jeez.
That's the pressure getting to you, kid.
A lot of pressure.
It's only 68 degrees. So
It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, 160.
Drinan, 25-year-old, wants to play with Rick again. He calls.
When Scott Seaver's in a poker game, Lana, it feels more like happy hour at Buffalo Wild Wings.
Nice discipline there.
The blinds fold, so 3 to the flop, all looking for help. And here we go.
I wouldn't have been able to let it go.
And Solomon gets help with trip 9s. Trickett drawing less than dead. He checks. Solomon checks.
Well, they both check, and if I've got Drinan's hand, I would bet here, but that's just me.
2 pair for Drinan. He's reaching.
He's going to bet.
Somebody
He
had.
He can't win the hand.
Somebody had to bet. 260,000. Trickett folds.
If someone bets into my trips and I look like Serpico, I'd check raise here, but that's just me.
Well, looks like it's just you and Rick Solomon. There is the check raise, 760,000 total.
Well, if I were check raised by a mystery pseudo-celebrity who hasn't worked a day in his life, who just bluffed me, I'd call here out of spite, but that's just me.
Drinan wondering, what is he up to? Well, a non-believer, he calls for $500,000 more.
That's a bad call. He can't win.
All right, turn card heads up. 7 of diamonds. Both players now open-ended with the same straight draw. And Rick, with some of those tasty purple chips in hand, so worth $250,000 each. That's a $1 million chip bet.
I have no more advice to give, Lana. I'm exhausted.
You've used it all up this early in the season? Drinan now with the top pair, and of course the 9's on board. Why wouldn't he think his hand's good? He cuts out 4 purple chips as well, and they're in the middle now. Over 4.1 million in this pot. River card, ace of diamonds, a 3rd diamond on the board. Solomon checks quickly.
Maybe Drinan can turn his hand into a bluff now, but something tells me Solomon calls most bets here.
He checks back.
I got 9.
And the 9 for trips will take the pot.
Nice.
Solomon picks on Drinan again and moves up the chip ladder.
Yeah, I think Rick hated that diamond, but he still takes in the $4 million chip pot. He's in 4th place overall.
There's a ring to it. Rick Solomon, one-drop champion. Like, doesn't just sound right. Also, this place needs some giant banners of you in it that they can never take down. Come on, it'd be actually incredible.
4th and chips, only 21 remaining. It could happen. The 2014 World Series of Poker Big One for One Drop is dealt by the World Series of Poker social game on Facebook and mobile. Sit and go tournaments are starting right now. Are you in? Welcome back. During a break, our Kara Scott caught up with 2012 One Drop champ Antonio Esfandiari.
Day 2 here for the One Drop, and it's a little bit of deja vu maybe for Antonio. What does it feel like to be in this position yet again?
Feels amazing. It's a rush that I haven't really felt before. I know what it feels like to win this tournament, and it was incredible. And to this day, I've always wanted that moment back again because there's no rush like that. You know what I mean? And I wish I could go back and like seize it longer. You know what I mean? And so let's do it again. I think it'll feel even better than the first time, right?
And you've got a lot of people here watching you, and they are saying they're not here if you win, they're here when you win. So good luck out there.
Thank you very much. You remembered from 2 years ago.
I
so
do.
I have to correct you.
As Antonio dreams of going back-to-back, the dream of winning this year's event ends for 8-time bracelet winner Eric Seidel.
Frankly, he's never really recovered from that beat Johnny Champ put on him to end the 1988 main event.
So Antonio closer to returning to the final table. Action on Noah Schwartz, Florida pro with a World Series bracelet, also WPT and EPT titles.
Triple crown.
Yeah, that is true. King 10 and a raise to 180,000. Kerry Katz in the small blind folds to Antonio in the big 8-7 off.
He's got 3 bracelets, 2 WPT titles, but no EPT.
Antonio calls for 100 grand more. Why not? Here's the flop, heads up with Schwartz. 10, 6, 9. Nice one for the champ, flopping a 10 high straight.
It's good to be Antonio. It's not good to have top pair.
Schwartz with top pair and a good kicker. Antonio not going to slow play this. Bets 205 into the original raiser.
Schwartz finished 52nd at the 2013 main event. He has a degree in finance from Florida International University, which always sounded like a fictional college to me.
Got to think that Noah likes his hand. Plus, he knows Antonio is capable of playing any 2 cards, so you never know what he's up to. Schwartz taking his time with this, though. Now puts in calling chips. Turn card now. Deuce of clubs keeps the status quo.
Of course, a deuce on the turn. Never changes anything, anytime, anywhere. Esfandiari with a stranglehold on this baby.
If Antonio were analyzing this, I guess he would say you have to keep your story consistent.
It's interesting that he's trying to keep his story consistent. I never believe a word he says.
That's true. 405,000 and a nasty look from Schwartz.
Well, Schwartz knows the deuce of clubs is a benign card. He certainly might think that top pair is good here.
Noah's flummoxed.
All in. Call.
All in. Drawing dead. Never good.
He's reflummoxed. You know, when you move all in, get called, and are drawing dead, it's a bad day at the office, Lon. Plus, you're paying $1 million rent at this office.
And just like that, Noah Schwartz sees all of his chips become the property of the Big One defending champ, out in 20th place.
Sorry, brother.
What an awful feeling for Noah Schwartz to be drawing dead, but still commit all your chips to the pot. That win pushes Esfandiari into 2nd place as he and his globe-trotting partner, Dad Bijan, continue to dream of another win.
If I'm Antonio, I'd never stop smiling.
Antonio Esfandiari running good in the big one, just like always. 19 players remaining. There'll be a complete redraw when we get down to 16. Daniel Coleman still the chip leader. Scott Seaver with Jack-8 suited raises to 190,000. Kerry Katz on the button. Fold 7 tray. Pocket 5s for Antonio in the small blind.
The day before One Drop, Antonio drove up to Mount Charleston, about 45 minutes from Las Vegas, took a long hike, meditated, and visualized winning. Maybe that stuff works. Though it works even better to get good cards.
A re-raise from Antonio to 505. Trickett in the big blind. Trickett is tricky, but he's not tricky enough to play those cards. He folds. So it's back to Seaver, also a member of the Triple Crown Club.
Scott scares me when he looks like this, Lon. I half expect a Hannibal Lecter moment.
He's usually so happy at the table, but you're right about that. Seaver seriously calls for 315,000 more. All right, here's the flop. King 8 king. Seaver pairs his 8 for the lead. He's got kings and 8s. Antonio, kings and 5s. Antonio reaching for chips again. Almost half the pot, 510,000.
Perfect bet sizing, Alon. Anything under 500 I don't like. And if you bet 540 or 550, then your hand just looks weak.
It certainly has thrown Seaver for a loop. Scott with the best hand right now. And commits calling chips.
Antonio seems a lot more relaxed than Scott at the moment.
Turn card now. Another king, both with kings full. Seaver's boat is bigger. Antonio checks.
Antonio slows down. Scott channeling the Godfather before a big Corleone family decision.
Seaver checks back. Okay, river card, very interesting. And another 8. So Seaver's been counterfeited, both players with kings full of 8s.
That's a ridiculous card.
Antonio, first to act. Seaver getting more serious now. Antonio checks.
Well, if Seaver checks, they'll just chop it. If he bets, well, all bets are off.
Antonio now curious. Why the delay, Scott?
I'm all in.
Scott
Wow.
Seaver says all in.
Well, of course, if Antonio calls Scott's all in, they'll chop the pot. Is it worth $2 million to Antonio to find out if Scott has a king or a pair bigger than 8s?
Antonio started the hand with almost 12.5 million, but folds, and Seaver with an excellent all-in bet on the river will take the whole pot.
Let's make sure they see this.
I thought I had it, though.
The highs and lows for Antonio. He flops the nuts, then gets bluffed on the very next hand. A strong play from Scott Seaver, one of the best in the game. Back at the Rio with the new high roller in the distance, the world's largest observation wheel. And we're looking at Hong Kong Tom Hall on the left with friend and 2013 November 9er JC Tran. As we learn, poker isn't Tom's only diversion away from his day-to-day business.
My passion for rugby really started when I came to Hong Kong. Even though my family was there, I didn't really know many people outside of my family, and I joined a local rugby club called Valley Rugby Club. And rugby, if you've played it, it's a real team bonding sport. It's a physical game. It's a very physical game. You can't hide on the pitch. So I met a lot of friends through rugby, and a lot of my early success through work came through connections I made through my rugby club. So I love playing rugby. I played for Hong Kong at international level, played against some of the best, lucky enough to play against some of the best players in the world. Hong Kong's a small country, but it has one of the best tournaments each year. And now I'm a bit older and a bit fatter and slower. I can't play the game myself anymore, so I enjoy sponsoring the club and seeing the young guys come through. And yeah, last weekend there was 35 of us in Las Vegas, and it went mad. A lot of good stories, not for TV, unfortunately, but yeah, it was fun.
Tom has the best of 4 pocket pairs dealt on his table. So far, aces, queens, jacks, and 6s. Action on the button. Isaac Haxton with second best queens. 205,000 needed to call Hall's initial raise.
The odds of 4 players having pocket pairs in the same hand is something I am not capable of calculating on.
I was counting on you. Haxton with the queens, and as you see, a lot of action in front of him, and he's going to re-raise it to 800,000.
Haxton graduated from Brown. He'd have a shot of figuring this out.
The blinds fold back to Hall with the biggest stack at this table, and he says all in, and Brandon Stephen flinches. Brandon folds his 6s now. Gabe Kaplan, who had called with pocket jacks.
And pocket jacks is a strong hand, but he's got only 205,000 in the pot so far. Heck, he can get that back headlining a one-night stand at Caesars if he feels like doing stand-up again.
Well, I've taken a lot of advice from Gabe Kaplan through the years. He should listen to my advice on pocket jacks right now.
Right now, Gabe's thinking, I'm 70 years old. Why didn't I just enter the 1K senior event?
What a decision with pocket jacks. And despite everything we've said over the years, a strong hand, but with so much action around you. Gabe would have to go all in to call. He does not. Now with the queens, Haxton.
And Isaac with a decision for all his chips.
Call. He says, okay, let's go.
They both aces. That's not good for me.
And Tom Hall in position to knock off Isaac Haxton.
Yeah, Kaplan survived the gauntlet. Now Haxton's got to get very lucky to do the same.
Isaac does not look so confident. All right, here's the flop. 9-9-10. Hall still way ahead. Maybe a glimmer of hope for Haxton.
Haxton's still looking for a queen, and now he's got runner, straight, and flush possibilities.
Turn card ace of diamonds, giving Hall aces full. Haxton cannot win the hand. Knocked out in 19th.
He was a kid with a dream.
Haxton says goodbye. J.C. Tran sees Hall's chip stack grow towards 17 million and the chip lead.
Make it look easy, Tom.
Aces always makes it look easy. Maybe they need a lot of
Hong Kong Tom, which reminds me that three-time bracelet winner Miami John Cernuto has never lived in Miami.
Hall positioned for a deep run here, which would mean a lot of cash coming his way. A top-heavy prize pool. First place at over 15.3 million. The minimum payout is 1.3 million for 8th place.
9th place pays nothing. That's the worst bubble in bubble boydom.
No kidding. All right, one of the outer tables. Daniel Coleman has the action. 9-7 off. It raised to 220,000. Ivy folds.
White is the new black line. In white t-shirts tonight, Coleman, Noah Schwartz, Connor Drynan, Sam Trickett, Rick Solomon.
Action folded to Daniel Negreanu in the small blind. Ace-4 of hearts calls for 170,000 more. UK venture capitalist Paul Newey says he likes to play with Negreanu.
You know, you hardly ever see any venture socialists.
Just venture capitalists. Good point. King, queen off for Newey. He sees a raise from Coleman, a call from Negreanu. And the big blind puts in an additional 120 more, and 3 will see the flop. Coleman with the worst of it here. The flop is 8-9 ace 2 spades. Negreanu flops an ace and checks. Newey missed. Coleman with middle pair.
Yeah, Paul, he checked. I think he really should check too.
There you go. Now Coleman, who got a piece of that flop. And like any heads-up specialist and any no-limit specialist, you hit the flop, and usually you bet it. 250,000.
Coleman with middle pair, Negreanu with top pair.
And Daniel with that pair of aces, deciding the perfect amount to put in, and that's a check raise to 650. Newey folded. Back to Coleman.
Coleman finished 3rd at this year's World Series 10K Heads Up Championship. Heads up right now with Kid Poker.
Boy, this 23-year-old is stubborn. He makes the call for 400,000 more. Turn card now heads up. 4 of spades, a 3rd spade out there. Daniel with aces up. Coleman picked up a flush draw.
Well, Daniel not worried by that 3rd spade.
That's 775,000.
Coleman won this year's 100K EPT Monte Carlo High Roller with 2.1 million, beating Dan Cates heads up.
Quite an accomplishment indeed. Anytime you get by Jungle Man. So Coleman with a flush draw. And one of the problems I would think he would have, Norman, is even if he hits his flush, it's only 7 high. But he does call.
Oh, you're right about the flush. But he might think that his pair of 9s is good.
River card now. A red tray. So Negreanu officially has the best of it.
Daniel running low on funds.
He started the hand with just 3.5 million. And puts in $1.25 million there.
Negreanu bets just more than 1/3 of the pot. If you're Coleman, you might think it's possible Daniel has a busted straight draw. Daniel's favorite hand is 10-7. So a pair of nines might have been good the whole way.
Coleman started the hand with $12.6 million.
What the heck is that? Is that how you fold heads up online?
Busted flush draw and second pair into the muck, and Daniel will take a much-needed pot. So a nice boost to Negreanu as he lightens Coleman's stack in the process. The 6-time bracelet winner is making a play for number 7. Daniel Negreanu moving on up here at the big one for one drop. 18 players left here at the big one for one drop. $1 million buy-in with a prize pool of over $37 million. That man, Antonio Esfandiari, won it all in 2012. Securely in second place now, about $4 million behind amateur Tom Hall. Other big names in the top 8 include Sam Trickett and Phil Ivey.
Tobias Renkemeyer, one of 5 Germans to enter the big one, which means we've taken $5 million out of the German economy. USA! USA! USA!
Gary Katz under the gun, lives in Las Vegas, businessman here with pocket aces.
He is CEO of College Loan Corporation. I believe I owe him money.
A raise to $225 from Katz. Pull it over to Rick Solomon, who gives up 6 tray in the small blind. Seaver folds. Big blind is Connor Drynan, also with aces.
Well, the edge here goes to Katz because he holds the ace of spades, Lon, the prettiest card in the deck.
It is indeed. So Drynan now wondering how exactly he wants to proceed with his pocket aces.
Fun fact for you, Lon, pocket aces is a favorite against every other hand in the deck except pocket aces.
Drynan in the big blind now. And that looks like more than calling chips. There's a re-raise to $580,000.
They really should just dispense with the drama and get to the business of chopping this pot.
And Kerry certainly hasn't forgotten what he has, so a little Hollywood to go with the extra drama. Drynan sitting up tall and confident with his aces. Katz re-raises to $2 million. That's a 4-bet.
We saw Drynan get bluffed earlier by Rick Solomon. If he folds here to this 4-bet, that would be a very nitty play.
Very nitty indeed.
Save your money, kid. You can't win every pot.
Save your money, kid. I don't think you'll find those words on any College Loan Corporation letterhead.
44-year-old with some friendly advice to the recently turned 25-year-old Drynan.
This might be the longest chopped pot in history, and we're still pre-flop.
All in. Call.
Bullets? Wow, you both have bullets. It's so sick.
So everyone knows now.
Can we just chop?
God, I was like, he has to have kings. Like, he's so strong here.
Yeah, with that speech, I was like,
There's only 1 aces left. It's so sick.
Yeah, speech is like, man.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying this could happen, but this is how I busted with 11 left in the 10K last week.
Yeah?
Yeah.
There's the flop, 2 hearts.
Hearts. Hey, I got a free roll.
Happy now.
4% chance.
You can breathe now.
You can breathe.
You can't.
If I lose like this, whatever.
Yeah, no.
No, you're not.
Third card down.
Kings.
Oh, my God.
It's another heart. This is getting serious for Drynan.
I feel like it might.
Of course it might, but like,
I got some of the Antonio luck shifting over here.
there hasn't been it. Me neither.
A river heart would give Katz the pot and knock Drynan out of the big one.
And now the river card. No!
I'm so sorry.
Drynan flushed out of this tournament.
$1 million buy-in wiped out in aces versus aces.
Wow.
Connor Drynan just became the answer to a wicked poker trivia question.
That's so sick.
Is brutal.
God, you wanted to do a chop, right?
Not anymore.
That might be the worst beat in the history of tournament poker. $1 million buy-in, 18 left, 15 million to the winner. Aces versus aces, and a flush knocks Connor Drynan to the rail. It was the beat heard round the Amazon room. Connor Drynan all in with aces and loses 2 aces. He's with Kara Scott.
We've lost Connor Drynan from the one drop here. You've had a couple of minutes to kind of compose yourself. I think that might be in the contention for one of the worst bad beats really in tournament history, aces versus aces in a tournament like this. So what goes through your mind when you take that moment away from the table?
I mean, there might be worse, like a final table bubble or something, but yeah, I don't know. It's just, it kind of sucks. It's poker, though.
It must be a difficult moment. Is it shock? Is it dismay?
Yeah,
What's going?
I mean, it just hasn't really processed yet. I don't know. I get over this stuff pretty easily, but definitely heartbreaking.
It is, and thank you so much for coming back and talking to us. Out in a pretty bad beat, Connor Drynan.
There was some immediate reaction from the spectators here. J.C. Tran summed it up pretty well.
Indeed, $1 million buy-in, aces versus aces, and you bust on that hand? Wow.
You know, I had aces in the daily deep stack tourney against pocket deuces recently.
No more bad beat stories.
All right, to one of the outer tables, Tom Hall, the chip leader with over 17 million. Action at this table on Christoph Vogelsang in the small blind with aces of his own. It's going to happen again, Norman.
No.
Jack 9 for Tom Hall in the big. He calls the raise, and they'll go heads up.
Vogelsang, the 28-year-old German pro, playing in his first World Series event.
Vogelsang, a newcomer's dream, flops aces full.
You know, actually, this would be a worse beat because Hall is drawing dead against Vogelsang. So if he wins at showdown, Lon, we've got a problem.
We do have a problem. Vogelsang, of course, he wants to get the most bang for his hand here. He checks.
Check.
Hall checks back.
These are the 2 best-dressed players here.
5 of clubs on the turn. Vogelsang sees no commitment from Hall to this point, so he checks once again. Hall says he is the fish in the Macau game where he plays, so he's always got a seat waiting for him there. He bets 400,000.
Well, Vogelsang was hoping the big stack would play bully, and Hall obliges. What a fish.
So now Vogelsang.
You know, technically Vogelsang could fold here if he puts Hall on quad 3s.
That would be nitty. There's the call. River card now. Another 5. So Vogelsang improves to aces full of 5s. Checks again.
Hall will take the bait again.
Big stack puts Vogelsang all in.
I call.
Yep, I call. I double up. A small hit to Tom Hall.
You had a good time too.
That hand reminded me of the 1940 NFL championship game. Bears 73, the team called Washington, nothing.
So Tom Hall takes the hit, but he is not damaged. He's still the chip leader here at the big one for one drop. But most of the Amazon room is still in disbelief over the horrific beat that Connor Drynan took. Welcome back to the World Series of Poker. Big one for one drop. Scott Seaver is near the bottom of the pack in this event right now, but this talented high-stakes pro entered the one drop for a reason beyond the huge prize pool.
To play this tournament was absolutely mandatory for me. I saw the turnout 2 years ago, the amount of good the tournament did. When you look at the money raised for charity, and I got to watch the videos of Antonio and Phil going down there and seeing firsthand what this money is doing and providing, it was something special, and I really wanted to be a part of it. And separate from that, everyone looked to just have the most fun ever playing this tournament. It showed throughout the entire coverage that just absolutely everyone was having a blast, and I just really wanted to be a part of the whole atmosphere.
Scott, befriended by Daniel Negreanu, and they both play the game right. And I mean more than just strategy. They act right at the table. They have a good time. They both truly are poker ambassadors.
Well, Seaver looks like he wants to have fun with 8-4 suited here on the button, a raise to 225.
Seaver still deep enough that he can raise on the button with trash hands like 8-4.
Folded to the big blind, Esfandiari with 10-7. Of course, this short-handed table brings a variety of hands into play. We're 5-handed here, and Antonio will call.
Antonio's always deep enough that he can call a raise out of the big blind with 10-7 offsuit.
Heads up, 9-8 deuce. Antonio open-ended, a pair of eights for Scott Seaver. After Antonio's one-drop victory, he went to World Series Europe and won his third bracelet. They both check. Turn card 6 of diamonds, and that's a 10-high straight for Antonio. He's got the nuts.
Antonio tonight has flopped a 10-high straight and turned a 10-high straight. I suspect he will own Cirque du Soleil by this time next year.
Esfandiari reaching for chips now. 315,000, and now Seaver with second pair.
And Scott now has adopted his uncontrollable, unconscionable, crazy, intense facial expression.
And he makes the call. They don't look like they're having fun right now. River card is another deuce. And Seaver might think his hand, a pair of eights with the deuces on board, is good. But we know he was drawing dead going to the river. Antonio reaching for chips.
How much? Call.
Oh, a quick call, and Antonio shows him the straight.
Straight, right?
Of course it's the straight. He's the magician.
Papa Esfandiari still having a good time. Antonio into second place again.
I've heard of heads-up online specialists, low-ball specialists, Lon. What, Antonio is $1 million buy-in specialist?
He's got it going again, over 13 million. To an outer table, two accomplished non-pros locked up. On the right, Gabe Kaplan flopped a pair of 10s to overcome the pocket 9s of Brandon Stephen, who checks to the pre-flop raiser. Gabe puts together a bet of $250,000.
Technically, these two are amateurs, but Gabe plays all the time, and Brandon has some terrific tournament results.
Brandon's call now pushes the pot over $1 million. Turn card, 9 of spades, and Brandon Stephen turns a set to grab the advantage and checks again. Gabe with a two-way straight draw and checks back. River card is a 10. Oh, that's nasty. Stephen with 9s full, Gabe with trip 10s. Stephen checks again.
Trip 10s. Why wouldn't Gabe put in a bet?
He's putting together the yellow chips, 100 grand each. That's 700,000.
Brandon Stevens' cuffs are mesmerizing. Where can I get a shirt like that?
2 months of your salary, and you can buy it anywhere, probably, Norman. There is Brandon's brother and business partner, Rodney, looking on. With the full house, Brandon Stephen has some of the purple chips in hand, worth $250,000 each. And there is the check raised to $1,850,000.
And suddenly a load of worry on Gabe Kaplan's mind. What do you do if you're Gabe Kaplan here? Flush is possible, straight is possible, full house is possible. Gabe's got trips, but not much he can beat except a bluff.
Gabe Kaplan folds. That's a strong fold. Brandon Stephen will take that pot.
Good bet. Yeah, good fold from Gabe. If these guys are amateurs, then I'm an astronaut.
Probably had it. You probably had it? Folded, I definitely had it.
Gabe saves chips with the laydown. Brandon Stephen moving up the leaderboard. The 2014 World Series of Poker Big One for One drop is dealt by the WSOP social game on Facebook and mobile. Sit and go tournaments are starting right now. Are you in? 17 players remaining here at the Rio in the Big One for One drop. When we get to 16, there'll be a redraw. The players will all get new seats. Tournament officials do this so everyone has a chance to play with each other, which makes the tournament more fair. To our featured table, action on Kerry Katz on the button. Ace-Jack. Katz just limps in.
Limping on the button? Didn't know people still did that.
Ace-Queen for Antonio. From the small blind, a raise to 400,000. In the big blind, his buddy and runner-up in 2012 at the one drop, Sam Trickett, Queen 10.
Queen 10 makes Ace-Queen look like Paradise Island.
The British pro, Sam Trickett, with 20 million in tourney winnings, half of that at the one drop 2 years ago.
And he's generally considered one of Britain's best high-stakes players.
A limp and a raise in front of him, and he calls for 300,000 to Katz now.
If I'm Katz, I'd ask for a three-way chop.
Especially with Trickett and Esfandiari in the hand with you. And ace-jack will come along for 300,000 more.
Give me pocket deuces, and I'll take my chances against those three hands.
All right, so here we go. Queen 10, ace queen, and ace jack. The flop is 10, ace 5. Esfandiari with top pair, best kicker. For Katz, top pair, kicker, no good. Trickett with just middle pair.
Now, everyone gets a piece of that flop, but all pieces are not equal. I believe this hand is a microcosm of America and our flawed capitalistic system.
Esfandiari checks. What does that tell you?
Get off my back, that's what it tells me. And I'll tell you this, Trickett should not bet here. Sure, the Brits may have developed capitalism, but we perfected it.
Oh, we did we? Trickett with second pair, a pair of 10s. That's 375. Now, Katz with the pair of aces, but the inferior kicker.
Okay, that 375 Trickett put in, Lon,
yeah,
that's going from one side of the Atlantic to the other.
Call. So Esfandiari now with the best of it. And Trickett maybe getting a little more action than he really counted on. Katz made the call. And we know Antonio's not going anywhere, already reaching for his stack, and he makes the call. So these three have built a pot of almost 2.4 million. 8 of spades on the turn. Antonio still good. He checks again.
See, the thing about capitalism is it doesn't really provide for the well-being of everybody. Somebody here is going to get hurt. You never saw Marx and Engels playing heads up, trust me.
Now, Trickett, with really the lack of aggression around him, maybe feels good about this. Maybe he thinks neither opponent has an ace, but they both do.
Well, he would like to end it right here.
Sam with $1.25 million now on Katz.
Amateurs hate laying down top pair. Trickett's thinking, please lay down top pair.
Right.
You've got 6 kids at home, man. Lay it down and live to feed them another day.
Gary Katz giving this some serious consideration. Reaching for his stack. How deeply does he want to get involved here with these two fine players? And finally, a snap decision to fold.
Well, 1 down, 1 to go for Trickett. But the magician has him in his sights.
And Trickett's bet actually scared off one of Antonio's finer customers there. Antonio had checked, and now check calls.
If we were in the UK right now, I think Trickett would try to get Antonio deported.
River card. Now we are heads up. Another 8. Antonio's best with aces up and checks again. Tricky Antonio staying the course.
Actually, I believe John Kenneth Galbraith said it best, Lon. Quote, under capitalism, man exploits man. Under communism, it's just the opposite. End quote.
Check. Ace 7.
Check, check.
One more barrel, Trickett.
Would it work? Would it work? This is so annoying because it was obviously folded an ace.
Would it have worked? Of course it wouldn't. Huh? Of course it wouldn't.
Ace jack.
You folded an ace, right?
I voted ace jack.
You folded an ace. That was what it's tough for
I
me to
figured you
block.
were on a big draw.
Yeah, so that's why it's so
Would you have 10
difficult.
jack of spades?
I had
Something
10
like
of spades. Yeah, it made it harder for me because I knew you. It was obvious you folded an ace.
What's obvious to other people is never obvious to me.
Well, Trickett was right on a couple of counts. He knew Katz had an ace, and he was right not to bet on the river. All right, to one of the outer tables, recent bracelet winner Doug Polk open shoved with a short stack and a suited ace before Phil Ivey called with pocket nines for almost 20% of his stack. So Polk looking to improve, to stick around. He picks up an 8 in the flop, but still needs more help.
If anyone knows what's on Phil Ivey's playlist, please tweet Kara Scott at Kara OTR.
Ivey adds a gut shot. Polk still looking to improve now or never.
Polk needs an 8 or an ace, or he is whamboozled.
The river card is a 7. Ivy Rivers a meaningless 9 high straight. Doug Polk's run in this $1 million buy-in is done. 17th place and no cash. So with Ivy's knockout of Polk, the players will take a break. We are now down to just 2 tables of 8. Tom Hall still leads, but Antonio is fewer than $1 million behind Coleman and Ivy, the only other players above $10 million.
3 businessmen amateurs in our top 8, and we still have a comedian, a car dealer, and a venture capitalist looking for the big payday, plus, of course, Daniel Negreanu.
Winning the big 1-for-1 drop changed Antonio Esfandiari's life in 2012. Is it possible his life will change again?
It was just smooth last time.
But the hand everyone will remember saw aces collide pre-flop.
Save your money, kid. You can't win every pot.
You can breathe now.
16 remain in the big 1-for-1 drop. $15 million to the winner. For Norman, Chad, and Kara Scott, I'm Lon McCarran. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports.